Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. It's a little cold, a little dreary outside, but inside and here for the training, I just brought the sun and a lot of energy. So we're going to have a fun time getting into LinkedIn. As we move forward, I like to just give tips for success at the beginning to say thank you to those showing up early and on time. I really appreciate you doing that. And one of the tips I want to give you is that as you look into LinkedIn, one of the things we have to be careful of in social media, especially in LinkedIn, is getting caught up in the what we call vanity metrics. How many people viewed our post? How many people liked it or commented? And the one tip for you I want to give you is that in the federal government, our audience, we are very conservative in responding within LinkedIn, especially giving engagement, thumbs up, etc. I'm ecstatic if I get 20 likes on a post that I put out there. I don't really care about the likes. I know what I'm putting out is valuable and I know people like it. And I often get people coming back saying, I've been watching and consuming your content for years, not weeks, not days, months, right? But for years. I just want to tell you how great it is. I'm like, well, you could have told me earlier, but let's celebrate the fact that you're even there. And my point is just make sure when you're starting to engage on social media, you're starting to do stuff on social media, that you don't get caught up in those vanity metrics. People are looking at your content if it's valuable. Okay, we're going to get rocking and rolling. Let me just turn off these captions I got rolling. I think I got it squared away. I know I'm sharing my screen, which I'll do in a minute. Okay, let's get going with training. By the way, if you've ever been here to other trainings, it's one of my signals to my team about where we trim the video. So that way, when we have it after the fact, we can get rid of Neil rambling in the beginning, right? Okay, let's get started with training. LinkedIn's the only social media platform that, in my opinion, is respected in the federal market. There's all sorts of other social media platforms, but no one really has a serious presence on Facebook, on Twitter. Certainly in the government space now, they can't even use TikTok, which is a great platform, right? But it's just got problems at the moment. So our audience is not on there. Our audience is in LinkedIn, not only because we're the federal market and they're conservative, but as government contractors, right? That's where we live and breathe from a professional business social media experience. And government contractors, we want to be found by federal buyers. And if we want to be found, we need to be on LinkedIn. We need to be visible on LinkedIn. It's not enough to just have a profile. Actually, some people I see, and you need to check to see if this is you. You either don't have your picture showing. You should make it showing to everybody. You're networking. If you went to a conference, you wouldn't have a bag over your face, kind of hiding your face. And LinkedIn is a conference virtually. So you don't know who's at the conference and you don't know who's on LinkedIn. It really doesn't matter at this point. The other thing is I went to connect with people just this morning who were attending my training, and they're gating their content, or they're gating their connection. And so you have to watch out for this as well, to make sure that you're not requiring me to put in an email address in order to connect with you. That's called friction. And when you introduce friction between you and your buyer, or you and anybody who wants to connect with you and engage with your business and your content, you're just making it too hard, right? And for federal buyers, it's just something that's not going to happen. So what we're talking about is, especially as it relates to being engaged on LinkedIn, engaged meaning communicate with other people, et cetera. Being engaged on LinkedIn is what we call social selling. And buyers, federal buyers, are doing this as well as government contractors. We're all out there. Social selling just means we're understanding each other. We're having communication and dialogue, but we're doing it on social media platforms, right? It started with websites and then it expanded out into social media platforms as we know it today. I'll give you an example of how much the federal government has come along. On LinkedIn a little while back, I posted something about the NGA, the National Geospatial Agency. And so this is basically an intelligence agency within the DoD, part of the broader IC community. And you would think they're super conservative. They won't even tell you the name of their agency, kind of thing, right? But they came onto LinkedIn and I posted something that they had shared publicly, but I didn't think it was pushed out far enough. Anyways, I shared it. And the next thing you know, over the next few days in particular, I got a lot of engagement from industry, obviously government contractors coming in and appreciating the insight into NGA, but also NGA leadership. Different people in different roles were coming over and just kind of having a conversation that then attracted people from the broader DoD and other agencies. Government, what I'm trying to get at is government buyers, they're engaging on LinkedIn. And we want to make sure we're doing that as well. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is getting you started down this path by finding federal buyers. This is a really key part for government contractors to pay attention to. And I want to make sure you're tracking on that. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen, just going to go to my slides. In particular, we're going to be talking about how to use LinkedIn to get into federal doors and dollars. I guess that was a Freudian slip. But for government contractors, how you can use LinkedIn to get into the federal doors, how you can find and meet buyers and get those meetings. So as I go through my training, I'm going to do some slides and I'm going to do a lot of LinkedIn. I want to take you right into LinkedIn. I use this every single day. And so I want to use today, not as a training necessarily, but show you how I use LinkedIn to find and meet federal buyers on a regular basis. This is exactly what I do. It's what I teach my customers in our workshop. And as I teach you, you can take the skills directly away from this training, this event, and start doing it over lunch or coffee if you're over in the West Coast. So I'm going to cover down on an overview of federal buyers and just what I mean when I say federal buyers are on LinkedIn. Then I want to talk about how you can engage, how government contractors can engage with federal buyers. And so this is a really important part of building the relationships as you move from cold calling and cold relationships into warm relationships. Engagement is how that happens. We also call it marketing touches. And then the last thing I'm going to cover is how you might be able to transition relationships that you're building in LinkedIn, transition them off of LinkedIn into a meeting, right? I'm totally okay with virtual meetings. I don't really need a in-person meeting. It just adds too much extra administration. But moving it off of dialogue and activity that's happening in LinkedIn to just having a Zoom meeting or something. So that's what we're going to cover down on today. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. A process goes A to Z. When you follow that process, you're going to have repeatable, predictable results. What I'm going to teach you today is the process A to Z of finding buyers, federal buyers on LinkedIn. You follow this process, you will find tens and hundreds of federal buyers that you can then begin to start building relationships with. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to our newsletter. It's Government Contracting Success Newsletter. It's the one I put out. We've got 12,000 people in there in the GovCon space. This is a place where I can share more valuable information for you that I just can't get into a training or some other areas, but it's all valuable government contracting information. And then last thing is, I just wanted to say thank you to those who registered. We have well over 100, maybe 140 people who registered for today's training. And I don't give people a lot of notice. Generally less than a week, and usually a day or two is the most I tend to give. And so I really want to thank you for doing that, because when you register, you're letting LinkedIn push this notice out to others. It says, hey, there's good training over there. And the other is you're thanking my team, right? Cecilia's in here. Gus is in here. Cecilia, by the way, is my sister, if you don't know this. But they're in here helping make this happen. There's other people who are up in the background. And when you register, you're giving us a quick little thank you. So we appreciate that. Last thing is, don't forget, invite friends. If you've got value from these trainings, make sure you tell your colleagues, make it a regular lunch date. I have a lot of customers who their entire team sits there and just commits. I actually watched one of my customers submit or send an email to their customer, a federal buyer, trying to get meetings scheduled. They said, whatever you do, don't schedule it between 12 and 12:30 East Coast. We've got training that's solid and we don't move. And I just loved it. I appreciated it. I appreciate their value in the training, which makes me want to come back stronger every day. Okay, let's start diving into an overview of the federal buyers on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn will tell you they got, I don't know, 1 billion users now on LinkedIn, which really doesn't matter because it's all over the world. What really matters is kind of the smaller number of 211 million users on LinkedIn in the US. And one of the things I'll say to you is, when you hear these big numbers, it's not all for you. When you hear that the federal market or the federal government spends trillions, that's not all for you. When you hear that the federal contracting dollars is like 600 or 700 million or billion dollars, that's not all for you, right? We're just looking for our, 10 or 100 million that's for us. It's earmarked for Neil's money, right? And it's the same thing with people on LinkedIn. You don't need to connect with all these people. You're really trying to find 100 raving fans is what we call it. And so you're really trying to find federal buyers that can help you get into your target agency. And so as you move forward, don't worry about trying to connect with everybody or thousands of people. what you're really trying to do is get in and talk to the buyers. And so there are a lot of federal buyers out there. Government contractors are also out here, obviously. Mark Amtower, if you don't know him, go follow him. Tell him I said to go over there. But go look at his profile. And I can't remember if he puts it on his profile or if it's off the profile. But he does this annual survey of federal buyers. And he just talks about how many buyers and where they're at within the federal market on LinkedIn. So it's a great asset that he makes available to you. So a couple of the numbers, though, to just keep in mind about LinkedIn and the usage that happens on here. It obviously is a professional social media platform. It started out as basically a job board that expanded into people talking to each other about it and recruiting, et cetera. And then it moved into really a full out professional sales platform or business platform where people are able to come together and talk about things. So the interesting thing about LinkedIn is that you can see it right here in the US that we've got about 16% of log in daily, and that's not a lot. Right? Ironically, I did this poll a while back. I said, how frequently do you check LinkedIn? And I think like 80% of the people who showed up to take my poll said weekly. I wasn't quite sure how they did that since they signed up within the day they filled out my poll. But the idea is don't expect people to be on here all the time. Your job is to begin to engage them and find them. It's yes, you want them to find you, but that's a different training. So 16% sign into LinkedIn every day. But only about 1% are engaged. And that's a big thing because when people come on, they're kind of scrolling, they're looking for something. And part of what I want to teach today is, well, how do you go out and reach them and start engaging them? If they're not really getting engaged with other people's content, they're certainly not sharing content, right? I put almost nobody creates any content of value. And what I mean by content of value is what you know, your expertise, sharing it out. If you're a federal buyer, you should be sharing your content out. You know, subject to restrictions, but there's a ton of stuff that's publicly available that you should be sharing out. I see people always driving somebody back to SAM. I'm like, why don't you take your SAM RFI, turn it into a quick little post on LinkedIn and post it. And I guarantee you'll get a ton more people looking at that RFI, that market research as a federal buyer than sending us to SAM. Of course, we use SAM, but we don't go to SAM for the fun of it, right? But we kind of come here for the fun of it. We're used to our thumb scrolling. And it's the same thing with us, right? Is that if we know that no one's creating content, you need to think about, are you sharing out your company's core competency, your subject matter expert area? Are you sharing those tips out? If you're a staffing company, are you teaching the government how to find the most attractive candidates and maybe tips for interviewing them, et cetera? Are you talking about the modern ways? If you're in IT, are you sharing IT tips? I just started with a new customer yesterday, and I said, that's one of the things we want to help you do is to start sharing your expertise around cybersecurity. They're a cybersecurity firm. If they start sharing tips out there, people will find them. And so this is this whole engagement that I talk about, that's the back and forth. So I want to go in, that's from a high level. I want to go in really quick and just show you federal buyers on LinkedIn. This part here is what I want you to watch and then take away and try it after today's training. So there's basically two ways you can find federal buyers. You can search for them, just typing in Navy or something, or you can browse for them. So I'm gonna come back to this slide a couple of times. I want to incrementally move forward on these links, but basically I'm going to show you Department of Commerce. Then I want to go down one level in Commerce to a bureau that they have, so I can show you the people that are in there. And then I'm going to do the same thing with Keyport. So I don't know if Dave Waltz is on. David Waltz is on our training today, but he's often on here, so I figured I'd pick him. But he's got his office, Keyport. Keyport is part of the NUWC Warfare Centers, which is part of NUWC, which is part of the Navy, which is part of DoD. So I want to show you how fairly quickly I can walk through. I literally did this yesterday with a customer or for a customer where we were able to find them 50 points of contact program office people that we can then begin to try to reach out to and develop relationships with. So let's look at the Department of Commerce here. And let me close that one. Let me close this. So Department of Commerce, right? Every time I'm coming in on a link, I've already got the page lined up, but I just want to show you, I land on the page and right here are the employees. And if you click on them, you can see there's 3,400, right? Forget about that first number you see. When you click on it, you can see there's 3,400 people. And ironically, the first one's retired. But when you come in, right, let me just show you. I don't want to spend a lot of time. I tend to get caught up spending too much time. But like right here, here's Elliot, Senior Procurement Analyst. That seems like somebody to look at, to see if I might follow, to see if they're sharing information. Here's an appointee. Coming down, I can look at this director, program management division. So I can come down and see these people, and there's 3,400. I often get people say, I don't know where I can find the names of people in an office. Well, LinkedIn is a great place to start. There's not going to be really any emails or phone numbers here, but that's just work. You just got to go off and find it. So that is Department of Commerce, right? 3,400 people. But I want to come down a level into the Bureau of Economic Analysis here. And here you can see there's a lot less. There was 3,400 people. Now there's 385. I got a customer who supports this particular area. And if you come in, you can see the first person I'm looking at is a deputy CIO. If you're in the IT business, I would be following Amanda to see if she's sharing anything on LinkedIn. I might go over and see if there's anything on their website or she's doing a podcast interview. But now I know the name of a CIO I might not have known before. Here's a CIO, deputy CIO. Here's a branch chief, right? I don't know what they do, but if I click on it really quick, I might find that they're in. So here's branch chief. I'm chief of the compensation and government branch, right? I don't really know what that is. But if you're selling this type of business, in 2 seconds, I just went into a subordinate agency and was able to start finding people. And imagine if you take these 385 and you begin to just look through them. Take a whole day and scroll through them and go, I like this one. I like this one. Let me start finding it. This is what we call targeting in our workshop, visibility, targeting, and outreach. Before you do outreach and start calling people, you want to target. You want to build this list of 1 to 200 people. And in seconds, I just got started with Bureau of Economic Development. So here, I'm not going to go as far, but I want to show you the same thing with these 5 links. Actually, let me just click on them all to get them started. I guess I could have had them open before, but I'm doing this for effect because I like effect. All right, let me come back 5. So here's DOD, right? DOD, by the way, is not actually the entire DOD. It's just people who say that Department of Defense is their company. So here, just right at the start, I'm looking at branch chief contracting officer, senior contracting officer. By the way, if I say this 100 times, do not spam these people. In the end, I'm going to tell you how to engage them. Do not spam these people. First off, it's just wrong. Second off, you won't get what you want. If you won't do the right thing for the right reasons, then do the right thing because it won't get you what you want, right? But there's so much. I can go through there and start looking and going, well, are there people who are not contracting officers, but actual program office people? If I come into the Navy, it's the same thing, right? So now I'm coming down a level, and the Navy's got 214,000 people in there. I've got people in Navy, but what if I just typed in CISO? I'm taking a shot. And a CISO is a cybersecurity information security or cyber, I don't know what it is, but it's cyber information security officer. And I can come in here though, and I start seeing all these CISOs. I just took 215,000 people or something down to 31 people right there. That's the Navy. If I come into NUWC, right, it's the same kind of pattern. I look in here and I say, oh, there's 5,300 people. And just sticking with the CISO for 1 second, there's 2 people. I can see there's the Matthew. He's the CISO at NUWC. This is cybersecurity, right? He's somebody worth following. I'm not reaching out to him right away, but certainly worth following. Let me come on over here. So now I'm coming down to NUWC warfare centers. So this is the 10 warfare centers are kind of grouped up together. And it looks like there's, 1,900 people who were tracking on that. In here, I'm not going to go too far into it, but let's look right there. There's a chief technology officer. If that's my space, this would be good. And then the last one, I worked my way down through 5 different elements. And by the way, I'm at Keyport, but I could go deeper. But if I just look at Keyport, this is Naval Underwater Surf Warfare Center in Keyport, but you can see there's 337 people. If I want to go talk to David Waltz, who may or may not be here today, but he's here multiple times a week. If I want to talk to him and ask for his help, I begin here. I don't begin by picking up the phone and calling him. I begin by looking here and I go, you know what, David, I would really love to meet Aaron. What do I need to do, David, in order for you to make an introduction for me? Well, your capability statement sucks. Fix that or something, whatever. He's nice. I'm not. But he'll give me guidance and he'll say, okay, now I'm ready to make an introduction to that person. Or if you're looking to meet a dad, there's a dad. I'm sure Chad's got more. But this idea, before you meet with somebody like David Waltz, who's a small business professional in Keyport, then you want to do your homework, right? And take a look at that. I'm moving really fast because I'm trying to watch my time here, but hopefully this made sense. As I look down, all I did to prepare to show you that was type in, well, I want to get into defense. I want to get into Navy. I want to get into NUWC. Well, what about the warfare centers, all 10 of them? What if I wanted to find the CTO for every warfare center? I could start with the warfare centers and try to follow that thread. David Waltz is on the call. I got a text from somebody saying he is. Hey, David. Okay, by the way, look at David's comment in the chat. Give it a thumbs up. He puts in there, we are looking for this. If that's what you do, give him a thumbs up. Certainly reach out and connect. Okay, let's talk about how government contractors can engage with federal buyers on LinkedIn, right? And the first thing I really want you to remember is this is not a transactional activity. In sales, there's two types of sales. There's transactional. You walk into a store, you give them money, they give you fruit or toys back or something, right? That's transactional, one for one. In government contracting, we're not doing that. We do solution selling. It's long-term selling. It's 12 to 24 months is what our common line is to people who are coming in. We're like, hey, remember the sales cycle, 12 to 24 months. And what I want you to understand is that the general relationship building takes some time. I just put 6 to 12 months. You can accelerate that a little bit if you're good at this, but don't be rushing to get relationships just so you can get something out of it. Look at the Navy and go, I want to serve the Navy over the next 5 or 10 years. How can I begin to build strategic relationships that are there for me time after time after time again? And I can serve their needs, not just with, a contract, but also just giving the Navy insight into maybe industry's best practices that they're not tracking on, things like that. And so I put here that this journey that you're on, it begins with the process of getting people to know you, right? We say people don't buy from you unless they know, like, and trust you. And so the first step in what you're doing on LinkedIn here is getting people to know you. Some of it is trying to make sure your profile looks good and you're putting out content that's attracting people to you. But what I'm talking about today is finding people that you're attracted to, that you want to build a relationship with in the federal market. You want to get in there and begin to engage with them so they start knowing you before the journey of liking and trusting. They start even knowing who you are. And so there's 5 steps I want to give you really quick on how you can make that happen. So I'm going to say what they are, and then I'm going to go show them to you in action. And we call these marketing touches or engagements. Basically, we say you need like 30 to 60 marketing touches before anybody's going to do anything real with you. And really what that just means is a little bit of engagement. You're just building that relationship. Some people do it over 20 years at 2 conferences a year or something, right? You can do it faster if you have strategic focus. So the first thing I recommend you do is figure out who you want to follow. Like I did that CTO. I said, oh, here's a CTO at Keyport. The second thing you want to do is to begin to engage with their content and like it. And so I'm just giving it a thumbs up, right? So look at content that is relevant to you and what you want to sell. Do not engage in content that doesn't have to do with what your company sells. Because what happens is LinkedIn sees you engage on it and they tell the rest of us, oh, hey, Joe is engaging in this. Joe's engaging in this. The problem is you're engaging all over. I stopped caring what you're engaging in. But if you're somebody who's in cybersecurity and you're out there finding relevant LinkedIn content that's cybersecurity and you're giving it a thumbs up, then I want to pay attention to what you're doing because you're smarter than I am in cybersecurity, but I want to follow that thread. So I start paying attention to your activity. So make sure you're engaging only in the content that is in your space. Once you have done this for a little bit, number 2, where you've engaged with them by giving them a like on their content 5 times, then you can follow them and hit the bell. I say follow them later. Get them used to seeing you, right? These marketing touches with a thumbs up. Maybe it takes a few weeks. Maybe it takes a few weeks for you to do it. But then when you follow, it's this next level. It's, just to put this in a bar, right? Imagine at a bar, it's just kind of eye contact. You're doing eye contact 5 times. Literally, this could be at a networking event as well. You might engage somebody 5 times and then walk over and say hello, right? It doesn't have to be at a bar. It could be in a networking event as well. But you take time. When you walk over, it's this next level of commitment. I'm not just saying hi, but now I'm saying, I want to hear about you. I want to give you my little hook and tell you what we do. So you can follow, hit the bell to do that. And then number 4 is comment intelligently. What I mean by this is people sometimes come into my posts. it turns me off when I see this, because I don't mind it once or twice, but when I see it on a regular basis, when I say it turns me off, I don't mean it makes me mad. I mean, it turns me off. I no longer see them. I actually no longer even engage them when they engage on my post. I just bypass. I'm like, whatever. That person is just doing their stuff, but they're not engaging my content. And when people like me or a federal buyer post content, we want people to comment to add value to it. I see this, I'm thinking about this. You can even disagree with me. That's totally cool, right? But that's adding value because you're adding a dialogue. I would prefer it if you say I'm the greatest thing in the world, but say it in a way that you look at my content. Anyways, the last thing is number 5, be careful with connection requests. Of course, you can reach out and do connection requests, but first thing is don't do it too soon. We do it too soon and you've lost the power of a connection request, like building up to that connection request. The other is if you make it and they refuse it, it's a little hard to come back. I mean, of course you can come back, but it's a little hard. So let me show you these links that I have. There's 2 ways that I did this. The first thing, I'm just trying to find Army contracting. I don't know if you can see all the way up here on the very top, it says Army contracting. And ironically, I got lucky and Terry here was commenting on my content, which is great. She was resharing it out there, which is awesome. But I just started scrolling through, right? I'm looking for content that might pop up, and I'm going to scroll down and show you where I was trying to go. So here, Victoria, it caught my eye for a couple of reasons. There wasn't much engagement, and then procurement analyst at the Army. I'm like, that's cool. I want to get into the Army, right? And so that's that second link here. I just followed her through. I didn't do anything yet. I just noticed her, right? And there's a lot of room for me to begin to engage. And by the way, this is tactical, me building a relationship with Victoria. But there's nothing wrong with that. I want to build up a relationship where I earn her trust to get a meeting, right? I could just reach out and say, hey, can we have a meeting? But I'd rather begin to engage her because I warm up the relationship before we even meet. So down here, I'm looking at what she has. And when I talk about, giving thumbs up or something, I mean coming down to this content. And like, here's one that says, I'm co-leading a 6-session activity. No, right here, VP Small Business Seeds. This is something I look at. It's a post. I might engage with it. Let me look at it. So first thing I notice, and I don't have enough time to really walk you through, but the first thing I notice is that I really like this post. It's talking about business, etc. So I would give it a thumbs up. But look at this. I'm the only one, or certainly the first one. And I want to know Victoria. This isn't even just training. This is what I mean. I'm showing you exactly what I want to do. I have customers who'd love to meet her or to follow her. The other thing is she did this 11 hours ago. I'm the first one. She's going to appreciate that. The second thing, and I don't have time to do it now, but I'm doing it when we're done the training. She's providing these tips. If small businesses are looking for contracting opportunities, maybe look in this area. So she's giving me tips. I'm going to go back and read it and say, if I summarize what she just said, it's this. I love it. Me personally, I might even actually share this post on my network, but get rid of all the text and just make it 6 or 7 bullets that she said. Go look at the full post by looking at Victoria's. So as we move forward, right, I found this person who now I want to build a relationship with, and I'm going to do everything a little too fast here, but I would spend, a couple of weeks as I engage with her content. But I could come in here now and hit follow. I just want to make sure I'm showing those of you who aren't tracking. So I hit follow, and on the right-hand side is this bell. Make sure on my profile and anybody else you want to follow, you hit that bell icon. One last thing, you see right here where it says Army Aviation and Missile Command. I can click on this. I'm clicking on that. And now I'm able to go down this path of a lot more people. I can learn more about her, but I can also learn more about her command and see that there's 453 people there. So this ability for me to keep going further into it, and the Army very much is my target. And so literally I just searched for Army contracting, found content, found Victoria, and decided I want to earn her trust enough to get a meeting. I'm building that relationship. Let me jump back because I'm totally out of time. This thing here, take a screenshot, come back for the replay, but these are steps for transitioning off LinkedIn. I'll talk about them another time, but if you look at this and take a screenshot, they do a pretty decent job of telling you. But here's what I want you to remember. Check every single day to see who's visiting your profile. If you don't know how to do that, just text us or put something in the chat and I'll help you. How do I find out who looked at my profile? But look to see who's looking at your profile. They'll be looking at your profile too when you're looking at them. Victoria, when I engage her content, she's going to go, who's this Neil guy? She doesn't know me. So she'll go check out my profile. And the last thing is make sure that you've got your capability statement. Imagine if I was a government contractor like you and Victoria comes to look at me, if my capability statement is sitting right up in the top in my featured section, she's going to be able to click and go down this rabbit hole of learning about me, all because I gave her a thumbs up, right? Hey, we're out of time. I just want to remind you as you go into the weekend and as you pursue all this government contracting and LinkedIn, they're not secrets. They're just processes. Learn the process. You're going to have a ton of success. I hope you have a good weekend. I will see you in the next training.